Hey guys, I'm traveling right now. I don't have my recording equipment with me, so excuse the shaky camera. I'm holding it as steady as I can, and also excuse the audio. I don't have my mic with me either, so I'm just using the phone mic. But I was thinking today that if a writer wanted to write a show about women's tennis, and maybe this would be a Netflix show, and the script would be the following: Madison Keys all of a sudden wins a Grand Slam tournament by beating the number 2 and number 1 player in the world. A 17-year-old Mira Andreeva wins 2 back-to-back WTA 1000 tournaments. That's not all. The head-to-head between Ostapenko and Swiatek goes from 4-0 Ostapenko to 6-0 Ostapenko. And even on clay, it goes Ostapenko's way. But that's not all. Another youngster from the Philippines ignites a tennis passion for an entire nation, and out of nowhere, from losing first and second round in challengers, reaches the semifinals of Miami by beating 3 Grand Slam champions, including Madison Keys, Swiatek, and Ostapenko, actually. Now let that sink in. And if I would read this script, I would say this writer is doing too much. This is too unbelievable. But it is the reality of the WTA. It's like a TV show. It is so exciting. And somebody must have put a voodoo hex on the draws of Iga Swiatek, because you're not going to believe this. In the second round of Madrid, she plays Eala. And I've been following Eala's game since that tournament in Miami, and she hasn't played that many matches. She played a WTA 125K on clay in Portugal. She won a round and then lost. And even though she was training for a long time at Nadal Tennis Academy, clay is not her favorite surface. But I did watch the first round match in Madrid because Iga got a bye in the first round. And Eala is serving a lot better than I remember serve in Miami. And I think the serve is only going to get better. Now, as far as her technique, when you see her serving, it doesn't look continuous. There's like a hitch in there. You can see it in her rhythm. And what that is basically her going up with the racket first and then pulling in that back foot in a pinpoint stance. Now, the racket, fortunately, is not at a standstill. That would be okay. It's not optimal, but that would be okay. She leaks the racket. So she pulls it up early into that trophy, pulls that back foot in, and while the back foot is pulling in, the racket starts traveling into the racket drop. So there's a racket drop leak there. So even though the serve looks better to me, she served some aces against Tomova in the first round, a match that she won very comfortably. There's still a lot of room for improvement on the serve, but I gotta tell you, I'm not a hype man by any means, but I think Eala is an incredible player, and it's one of the most versatile players that I've seen in a long time. In Miami, when she made that run, people were comparing her to Leila Fernandez. Look, Fernandez, phenomenal player. She didn't reach the US Open final by accident. She's incredible, but these are two completely different players. Of course, they're both lefties and have a Philippine background, but big differences because Eala's game far more versatile than the Fernandez game. And I've been studying her forehand, and it is very interesting. At times, it's flatter than the Ostapenko forehand. I made a video yesterday analyzing Ostapenko's forehand, backhand, and serve. I recommend that you check that video out. And she has a flat topspin forehand, Eala, but the swing path is even more horizontal than the swing path of Ostapenko. So the forehand can be very flat and very long, and she hits it very hard. So it's very dangerous. But she can also make some mistakes off that side. However, she can also roll the forehand and spin it in, open up the court, hit it cross court, hit it higher if she wants to. And it's not only that. She hits the forehand really well on the run, hits it well in transition, and most importantly, when the ball is higher, she hits it extremely well. She brings that ball down, changes her swing path. She has an exceptional swing volley on the forehand. But not only that, even a high ball off the baseline, she hits it so well and so aggressive. The backhand, very similar, because she likes to take that backhand early. And when the ball's a little bit higher, she leans into it, Jimmy Connors style. I made a video how to hit a high two-handed backhand. I recommend that you check that video out. And she basically does a cartwheel into the ball. You should check out the technique in that video that I'm referring to. I explain how to do the specific movement. It's a very interesting movement, very different from a regular two-handed backhand. So she has a lot of potential now. Will she beat Iga again tomorrow? Actually, it's the day after, I think. So will she beat Iga again 2 days from now? Can you imagine if Iga loses again to Eala? What that would do to her confidence? So she has a tremendous amount of pressure in this match. I do think, however, that because it's on clay, I think Iga's going to take this one, but it's going to be so fun to watch. So the WTA, it's almost as if it was scripted, but it's not. It is so fun to watch. But the ATP is fun too. Because if you remember a while back, the beginning of this year, I was learning how to pronounce the name of a very good young Brazilian player. João Fonseca.
Correct.
Okay, thank you so much. I've gotten better at the name, but now a new young player from Denmark pops up with another weird name, an O with a line through it.
Møller. Elmer Møller.
So let me try it out. João Fonseca against Elmer Møller. This is going to be some match. You guys know all about Fonseca. Unbelievable talent. Hits the ball so incredibly hard. But you haven't seen Møller. He hits it maybe just as hard as Fonseca, but he's way more unorthodox. When you see him play, you're going to think that he's a little bit like Brooksby, but with a lot more power than Brooksby. Very unorthodox movements on the court and very unorthodox strokes. The backhand reminds me a little bit of Taylor Fritz. He doesn't finish it all the way. Hits it extremely flat and unbelievably hard. Serve, very clean. Forehand, however, not only is it a Western grip, but he also has the pinky off the handle. Now, I don't have a racket with me. I would show you. You can take a look at this picture. So the pinky is off the handle. He's in a Western grip, and he hits that forehand so incredibly hard. But it's not only hard, it has a tremendous amount of whip on it. So it's a heavy topspin forehand that's unbelievably hard, very similar to Sinner. And this kid from Denmark, I'm calling him a kid, he's 21, young player, unbelievable potential. He reached the final of a challenger in Spain, lost to Cilic in the final. Yes, Martin Cilic is still at it. He's still out there grinding. And last week he won a challenger in Portugal by beating Comesana in the final. Now, Fonseca is the favorite, of course, but I've seen Møller in a few clips on Instagram, and I was very intrigued by the technique. But I think this can be another player who's going to shoot through the rankings because the potential is sky high.